everybody, Albert here. Today's episode of Most Cowbell, I'm going to talk about how I love to build things and some of the things that I built, and I'm going to give you a little bit of my history in terms of building stuff, because I have been doing this for as long as I can remember. It's kind of in my family. My dad built a lot of stuff. So anyway, I'll be back after this important message. You've heard of more cowbell. Well, this is Most Cowbell. Okay, so when I first got started with building stuff, I was a very young man, probably around, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old, something like that. Because my dad built a lot of things. He was always putting another addition on the house, or he built a cottage on the Thousand Islands. So when I was a little kid, they gave me a hammer, and I would go around and hammer on everything. And of course that lasted not too long. When you're 2 or 3 years old, you hammer on stuff, it breaks, and then you get in trouble and you get a spanking. So not that I minded the spanking, but they really didn't like the breaking things. So they took my hammer away, which is probably a good idea. But I remember I had a hammer when I was a little kid, and I got in trouble. But when I was about 8 years old, my parents moved to a farm. We weren't farmers. My dad was a technician at the radio station first, and then the radio station and the TV station. He would work both places, to maintain the equipment for them, because he was a ham radio geek, and he had a little repair business where we would repair people's radios and their depth sounders, because a lot of people would fish in the Thousand Islands, and so he would be working mostly on boats and doing electronics on boats. Electricity and water, kind of dangerous, but my dad never got hurt, and neither did any of his repairs were always good. He was very thorough. But anyway, he bought this farm to keep us kids out of trouble, because he felt like we would get in mischief if we lived in the big metropolis of Clayton, New York, population 1,400 people. So we moved to a farm, and there was an outhouse behind the farm. My dad had put in, before we moved in, he put in a bathroom upstairs actually, and then later he put another bathroom downstairs. There was a place in back of the fields. There was this pit. It was a sandy spot that they had been digging out sand, I guess probably to lay the foundations of these buildings that they had created. My mom, she would look out from the window when she's washing the dishes, and she'd see the old outhouse that we no longer used, and she said, "Bob, can you move that somewhere? I just don't like to be looking at the outhouse every time I'm washing the dishes. I don't mind washing the dishes, I just don't want to look at the outhouse while I'm doing it." So my dad said, "Okay, Fran, I'll take it." He put it on a wagon, pulled it with a tractor to the sand pit, where we like to play. We used to play in the sand. We'd play soldiers, cowboys, and Indians, and when we're playing soldiers, we'd dig a bunker in the sand pit and hunker down, and when we'd shoot our guns that we'd made ourselves out of 2x4s with 3 nails in them, 1 for the trigger and 2 for the sights. That's what we would do. And so we took this building and we kind of made it. I think we put a window in it. We did a few things to it. We messed around with it. It was our playhouse. And then my cousin Teddy, who was in the Regaltones, his family got a new porch. So they took the old porch, and my dad brought it up to the farm. And so we took this porch and we made it into a big playhouse that we could have like all our friends come and stay. So there'd be like 5 or 6 guys, in this little tiny house with a stove and a kitchen and everything. Then I moved to New York City, and I didn't really build stuff that much. You couldn't really do it. I mean, I remember living on 10th Street, just off of Tompkins Square Park. I had an apartment there. I used to go up to the roof all the time because it was nice up there. I'd go up and smoke pot and hang out on the roof. And I noticed that the chimney was falling apart. So I got some cement and I fixed the chimney. And the landlord was like, oh, you shouldn't have done that. You're supposed to get a permit for that kind of stuff. I'm like, permit? Really? We didn't have to do that in Clayton. He goes, well, this is New York City. You have to have a permit. I said, okay. Well, I won't ever do that again. So that was the end. That was about all I could do. In 2006, I started coming out to beautiful Blue Point, New York, here to see Lisa. It was built by her grandfather in the 1930s. Hank and Alice, they lived in this house for their entire married life. They had 2 kids. They had Frank and Joyce, Lisa's mom. When the kids were growing up, they got rid of the chickens and they turned it into a playhouse for the kids. Lisa was using it for a storage space for all her extra stuff that she brought from California when she moved back here. There was a leak in the roof and the whole place smelled like mold. It was really nasty and everything was getting rotten in there. I said, when I get some time, I'm gonna fix the roof. The summer of 2007, I came out and I decided I'll replace the rotten board and I'll fix the roof. Then I realized the floor was rotten, and so I replaced the floor. I actually jacked up the building and then I replaced the floor and I put it back down on the foundation. Just like that, it worked. My dad had already done that with our cottage up in the Thousand Islands, so I knew it could be done. That cottage was big. I mean, that was what, 1,000 square feet. So he had put it on a crane and lifted the whole thing up and built a whole other house underneath it and then put it on top. So this was nothing. I just easily did a few things there and it was all good. So I decided to make the walls 8 feet high, put like a New England perched roof on it, really nice. It's a total of like 12 feet high. It took me 6 months too, that was the other thing. I started in August and I finished like in February. So Lisa decided she wanted to use it as a studio because she's an artist. So I said, okay, it'll be your workshop, studio, whatever, and I'll build you another house for all your junk that was already getting moldy. I bought a kit, 750 bucks for a little storage shed. I built that in a day and a half. And then I put all her stuff in there, and now that same storage unit has got my drums in it. And I have 2 drum kits. I have 2 DW kits plus a whole bunch of other stuff. I built a carport, which was a really bad carport. It was terrible. It was like not to code. I didn't know what I was doing. I had these 20-foot runs. I put a couple 2x6s together, ran them 20 feet from beam to beam. It was like really crazy, and the thing was sagging and it was awful. I was ashamed of that job. I was really bad. But anyway, the next thing she asked me to build this gazebo. Hurricane Sandy came, and Hurricane Sandy pretty much was the end of that terrible carport, a victim of the hurricane. So it had big cracks and major beams. That 20-foot span, that was like toast. The following summer, my son Abraham, Ace, graduated from college. I said, well, you can come out here, stay here. I will pay you to help me build this carport. And so we looked it up. The town really will not allow a structure as big as what we had made without a permit. And so we didn't want to have to get a permit. You could build something for storage as long as it was within 144 square feet. It couldn't be over 12 feet high. So we decided instead of one huge carport, I would make 2 little carports that would be within code. So I made sure that the spans were right. I used the right kind of wood. That's the story. That's my vlog for this week.